At one point, he was homeless. At one point, he was told he would never make it to college football. At one point, he was only a 3-star recruit. The subject of today's video was never supposed to be anything for quite a while, but he has a great story about how perseverance, hard work, and the right attitude will get you far in life and in the game of football. Eventually, he won the MVP of the prestigious Elite 11 camp, got offers from big-time programs all around the country, and could go wherever he wanted. His name is CJ Stroud, and he is a new quarterback at Ohio State. There have been some good quarterbacks come through the program over the last few years, with guys such as Dwayne Haskins, JT Barrett, Cardale Jones, Terrell Pryor, and Braxton Miller, but the most recent one was Justin Fields. After being his backup last year, Stroud will get a chance to start, as Fields is now the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. In the process, Stroud went through a very tough quarterback battle, which included beating out 3 other ultra-talented players. In today's video, we're going to talk about who CJ Stroud is, what he brings to the table, and if he could be the next great Ohio State quarterback. But right before we get into that, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed, and you're not going to want to miss out on all my college football content this season. Plus, we're on the road to 100K, and you will not regret hitting that button, so let's go ahead and do that, and I really appreciate it. Now let's get started and talk about CJ Stroud. Before we start today's video, I just want to say CJ Stroud seems like an amazing guy who has a great mindset and is going to do big things in the game of life. But in terms of the game of football, he was not given the best set of cards to start out. He said, quote, "My life has been like a roller coaster. It's been up and down. I've been through hell and back. I've been through so much in my life. I was young and I was a kid when all this stuff happened. I really had to grow up early and I had to grow up really fast." There are multiple stories that I can point to. I'm going to go through each one of them. Back in the day when he was a freshman, his math teacher would ask him what he wanted to do in life. Stroud said he wanted to play in the NBA or the NFL, and what did the teacher do? He grabbed a marker and wrote the number 0.078. This represented the tiny percentage of high schoolers who would actually ever play professional sports. So basically what he was saying to CJ was study and try hard in this class because that's just a dream and it'll never happen. Thankfully though, Stroud did not listen to this guy. The next thing that was difficult for him was his mom. She grew up having to raise 4 kids, and CJ says she was the person who made everything happen for him. He wants to show kids how they can be successful from dark times. So obviously his mom was single, so it means his dad was not there. But technically it was his dad's fault, but also it wasn't. They're still best friends, and his dad would teach him how to play both quarterback and the game of basketball. But sadly, when he was in middle school, his father would have to go to prison. So as of right now, a lot of their conversations had to come through the phone. This is very difficult for any person, let alone a kid, to have to go through. His math teacher told him he would never make it. His mom had to raise 4 kids on her own, and his dad was locked away in prison, so he was not able to have that father figure. So the odds that CJ Stroud was ever going to be a college athlete, let alone the star quarterback for Ohio State, were pretty low. Also, he was also not even going to play football for a while, as apparently he was a great basketball player. His head coach said, quote, "If he stuck with basketball, he would have been a D1 player. He's a heck of a quarterback, but he's that talented athletically." Stroud would have to wait his time and learn patience, as he did not start for the high school until his junior year, and he was not very active in the camp circuit because he also played basketball. Because he wasn't on that camp and recruiting circuit, he did not have a ton of scholarship offers that most other players in the 2020 class had. Stroud said, quote, "You can't really control opportunities, but when you get your opportunity, you have to prove that you can do it and ball out." I feel like that's what I did. I have a big saying in my life, and that's to control the controllables. I really can't control what a school thinks about me. I can only prove what I can do on the field, and that's something I can control. I knew if I took care of business on the field, everything else would take care of itself. Stroud did show enough flash, as he would get one of the spots at the Elite 11 quarterback camp. He was one of the lowest ranked guys, as he was only a 3-star recruit at the time, and he would fly out to Frisco, Texas to compete with some of the top gunslingers in the 2020 class. He would have a terrific camp, as his stock would quickly rise, and every single recruiting site would bump him up. He apparently had stole the show, and was even better than Bryce Young during the event. He eventually led his team to a title in the championship game, and he won the prestigious Elite 11 MVP. Now his recruitment had been really soaring, and coaches from all around the country were calling him, trying to get him to schedule visits and consider their program. Combining that with his junior year, in which he passed for 2,343 yards and 19 touchdowns, his stock was through the roof. Eventually he had offers from every big-time school in the country, and in his 2 years at high school, he threw for over 6,000 yards and 66 touchdowns. When it came time to choose a school, he eventually chose the Ohio State Buckeyes over the likes of Oregon, Georgia, USC, Michigan, and Baylor. He said, quote, "Ohio State was definitely the best choice for me. I just feel like I'm really close to Coach Day and my quarterback's coach, and those guys are doing great things." So at this point in his life, Stroud was a hard worker, someone with a chip on his shoulder, was unselfish, knew how to be patient, and he wanted to win at both the game of football and the game of life. And this is exactly what Ohio State needs in a quarterback. So just how high did he climb in the recruiting ranks? According to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star recruit, the number 2 pro-style quarterback, and the 42nd best player in the class of 2020, and some sites even had him as a 5-star. Obviously, he had a ton of hype going into his freshman year, but everyone knew he wasn't going to play because of the guy ahead of him, Justin Fields. Stroud was also not alone in that 2020 class, as they brought in another blue-chip quarterback by the name of Jack Miller. Miller was basically the opposite of Stroud. He was a big-time player out of the state of Arizona, but because of a couple of injuries, Miller's stock would actually fall, and his ranking would continue to dip as he got farther along in high school. Obviously, Stroud got better as high school went on. Miller's ranking went a lot lower. Those two guys were inevitably going to have to battle it out, and just like Stroud, Miller was one of those guys that did not back down from competition, and in his mind was also ready to be the starting quarterback when his time came. Last year, Stroud would beat out Miller for that backup job, and legitimately, Stroud would only play in one game and take one snap. You may be asking, that's not a whole lot, but he made the most of his one snap. Against Michigan State, he carried the ball one time for 48 yards and a touchdown. Yes, you heard me right, his first play he ever had went for a touchdown. This is exactly how Stroud needed to start out his career, and it sort of gave him the upper hand in the quarterback battle. At the time, he was battling Jack Miller, obviously from the 2020 class, and incoming 5-star Kyle McCord. It looked like the race was going to come down to Miller and Stroud, but when that spring game came along, Stroud looked like the better player, and Miller struggled to a degree, so at this point it was CJ's job to lose. Then we got hit with an absolute curveball. Quinn Ewers was committed for the 2022 class, but he decided to reclassify to 2021 just a couple of weeks ago and take advantage of all the opportunities that would come with being an NIL college athlete. While many people did not think Ewers would win the starting job, this definitely puts the pressure on Stroud to perform a little bit more. But if there's one thing I do know, Stroud will be ready. He both checks the eye test for the skill set needed of a quarterback and the mindset/attitude a quarterback needs. So now that you know who Stroud is and his background, could he be the next great Ohio State quarterback? I think the answer is obviously yes. While he cannot leave for the 2022 NFL draft, he could potentially solidify himself as that top quarterback for the 2023 draft if he has a good year. What's scary to think is that he could potentially be a combination of both Justin Fields and Dwayne Haskins. Don't believe me? Here's what Stroud had to say. Quote, "I'm not as fast as Justin, and I'm not as strong as Justin, but I feel like I can get to that. Eventually, I'll be able to get on that level, and eventually I'll be able to throw like Dwayne Haskins did. But I always want to be better, and the coaching staff's always going to want me to be better." I really cannot get enough of Stroud, and I think he's going to be a spectacular player for the Buckeyes this season. With his story and mindset, I find myself rooting for him, and while I will be the first to admit I'm not the biggest Ohio State fan on the planet, I have nothing but respect for him, and I hope the team sees success this year. What does this mean for the rest of the team? Well, I think Ewers is the guy in a year or two, and there's potential that both Kyle McCord and Jack Miller could transfer out of the program. I'm excited to see what Stroud will do in 2021, and how he will someday do in the NFL. This should all teach us that we don't have to listen to anyone else's opinions, and no matter what our circumstances are, we can make something of ourselves if we really put the effort forth. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button as it helps both the algorithm and the channel out, and I'd really appreciate that. Don't forget to leave your thoughts down in the comment section, as I want to know what you think of Stroud, this whole quarterback room, and how you think Ohio State and CJ will do this year. Also, before you go, don't forget to subscribe, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my video where I talked about all 4 of the quarterbacks in this Ohio State quarterback room. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.